came into the room and she's like, look at my phone. And then I couldn't see it, so I had to look at mine. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game, but I can't bet against Tom Brady. I have the Bucs winning 31-27 and Tom Brady going to his 10th championship.
Aaron Rodgers and his people were like, they listened to our episode and they said, hold our cheesehead or coat.
Donovan Mitchell, who right now looks to be a superstar.
Just amazing. And I don't care what the Red Sox got for trading Mookie Betts and David Price. The Dodgers, in my opinion, win it. I don't have to see what players they gave up.
Yeah, that's not just the Chiefs. That's Andy Reid. He knows the defenses so well because he's such a great offensive mind.
Well, you said you can't bet against Tom Brady, and as a Cowboys fan and what I just did last weekend, I am not going to bet against Aaron Rodgers.
It was a great series. Game 4 was one of the best games I've ever watched in my entire life.
It just goes to show the offense for the Dallas Stars could not keep up. And when the defense needed to step up, the Lightning's offense just overpowered them.
Chris Paul is one of the most underrated players of all time. He's been the best player wherever he goes, and that includes with the Rockets. Yeah, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I mean, that's all I can really say. There's 2 of the top 5 players in the league, and they are very, very good.
Yeah, and I really think the Clippers' chance to win the championship was last year, and they were up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets.
Hello, I'm Taylor Hearn, and you listen to The Outsiders' Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our 86th episode. Actually, our 87th episode. My bad on that. Make sure to check out our 86th episode where Austin and I did NFL early predictions. Today, we will be reviewing our MLB trade predictions, and we decided that none of us won. It's a tie because we had 2 people saying they weren't the same people, but since we didn't get a trade correct, no one really won, so it's just a tie. So I'll get to where I mentioned last episode I was a little sad that I almost predicted a trade, and we almost kind of got this one right if I just changed the color of the socks. So I'll get right into it. Craig Kimbrell goes to the White Sox. I had the Red Sox. I think you had him staying. Am I correct?
I did, yeah. We were both partially right. You had him going to a Sox team. I had him going to Chicago. I mean, works out the same. He stays in Chicago either way. And now he's on a team that's definitely contending. I thought this trade was pretty surprising, and I'm sure you hold the same sentiment because they already have a stacked pitching lineup. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess if I want to make sense of it, you have Hendricks, but you had Kopech in the setup role. Maybe you want to move him to a starter role. So now you can move Hendricks or Kimbrell to the setup role, and then one of them is the closer. Maybe that's what Tony La Russa is thinking. And Kimbrell is a lot more mature than Kopech, and La Russa, being an older guy, wants to have a more trustworthy bullpen arm than Kopech, even though Kopech is great. Or they just want to add Kopech to the starting rotation, which he has done before, and he actually pitched, I believe, in one of the wild card games, if I'm correct, last year, quote unquote wild card game, because they expanded it.
Yeah. I think you did. I think you're right.
I'll double check. Do you have any more thoughts?
No, it's an interesting trade, but as a team that's trying to win a World Series, it's not surprising to add another pitcher. As like I mentioned many times before, you can never have too many.
Yeah, it's very true. I think we can move on. From what I'm seeing, Kopech elected not to play in 2020.
That's right.
So he didn't participate last season.
Yeah,
I was thinking of Dane Dunning, who pitched in the wild card game, who's now a Texas Ranger. So we can move on now to Michael Pineda, where he stays. I actually had him going to the Yankees. No, I had Michael Pineda going to the Angels. That did not happen. Where did you have him going?
I had him going to the Rays. It doesn't necessarily surprise me that he's staying. I feel like the asking price was going to be a good bit since he's a quality pitcher, but him not going anywhere, especially when there are many teams that still have pitching needs, especially starting pitching needs. I feel like a move could have been made, but maybe his asking price was too high.
Yeah, it's very true. Now I think we can move on to two Rangers that were traded, Kyle Gibson, Ian Kennedy to the Phillies. I was surprised the Phillies were able to make a move, but it did cost them um, some players. We'll talk about that more in our trade deadline video. But I had Kyle Gibson, Ian Kennedy going to the Padres as a package. You had Kyle Gibson being sent elsewhere, so I'll let you give more thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm surprised that the Mariners didn't make any major moves after picking up Castillo. Um, he has been the greatest, and obviously Graveman would have been a much better job. I feel like. Uh, but now, obviously, both of these guys going to the Phillies. The Phillies have had some issues calling out games recently, and I think Ian Kennedy's a great addition. However, Kyle Gibson, um, like you just mentioned, we'll talk about this more on the trade deadline video. But I feel like what the Rangers gave up made the trade a little iffy, and then obviously the Phillies, if they can get into a good run, they have a chance of pushing for a playoff spot. But because the Mets aren't that great right now, but if the Mets get hot, it's gonna be hard for them to come back.
Now we'll move on to Jose Berrios. I am going to the Yankees, but he actually goes to your rival, the Blue Jays. So that's I'm surprised the Blue Jays made a move. I really thought the Yankees I did hear were interested, but I think the Blue Jays made a better offer. But we'll talk about more of that in the trade deadline episode. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had him going to the Cardinals. I really thought the Cardinals were going to make more moves because, like I said, the timeline of Yadier Molina on the team, but they didn't. I like this pickup for the Blue Jays as it stabilizes their starting pitching depth. Uh, their rotations is now much better, and they've gone on a little bit of a run. If they can get a wild card spot, I feel like they'd be a dangerous team.
Yeah, especially with that young lineup and getting some good experience would be good. Now we move on to Daniel Hudson. I had him going to the Angels once again, but they did not make moves that I thought they would. I don't think they made. I think they traded someone away. Um, so we'll talk about that more in the trade deadline episode. So a good move by the Padres, as we knew they were going to go get some. They were going to make some deals, but we just didn't see Hudson going there. Where'd you have Hudson going?
So I had Hudson going to Boston. I really thought Boston was going to make more moves, and they really didn't. We'll get to a guy soon that I had going to Boston. I'm really surprised they didn't make a move for him either. But Hudson to the Padres, I think, is a great move, especially with that great division they're in. They're going to need as much pitching depth as possible, and so he adds somebody uh, who's won a World Series, unlike the majority of the players on their roster. They have many players who played in them, Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, but no one who's won it, I believe. So now they add Daniel Hudson and solidify their bullpen.
Yeah, they'll definitely need some bullpen arms. Now we move on to Byron Buxton. I believe we both had him staying.
Yeah.
So he did stay. So this is one of the people we got correct, but still, no actual trades we predicted correctly. So Twins probably didn't get what they want, so they did the right thing and didn't trade him away just for a bag of chips. So it's a good thing. Maybe they can work out extension, but I think that's a little too optimistic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's not a great chance that they sign him to extension unless they pay him much more than everybody else offers, which I think is a possibility, especially since stability is always something that a player wants, and if they can get a good deal uh, to stay where they've been their entire career, I feel like most players consider it at least. But I don't think they re-sign Buxton. But again, not trading him for pennies, like you said, is still probably the best move.
Now we go to Chris Bryant, where this is the one that haunts me because I said Chris Bryant. I was thinking about it, then I went with Ramirez, but he actually did go to the Giants. So blockbuster move, but not the blockbuster move in the NL West. But are you surprised by the Giants getting him?
No, I thought they were gonna pick up a third baseman anyway. But obviously, you and I both agreed that it was gonna be Jose Ramirez, but Ramirez was never moved, which we'll talk about more later. Um, so yeah, I'm not necessarily surprised, but the Giants are definitely contenders this season. Right now, my pick to win it all. So we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. That is a little snippet of pretty early. Well, not early, but early playoff prediction. But now we move on to Whit Merrifield, where he stays. I had him staying. I believe you had him being traded to
I did
where?
the Reds. I mentioned many times that the Reds needed infield help, and while they didn't pick it up, they are playing well right now, and so they are a team that's a dark horse to make the playoffs.
Yeah, especially if the Brewers falter. Now we move on to Josh Donaldson. You had him staying. I believe that I had him being traded to the Phillies. Um, but that didn't happen as he stays with the Twins.
Yeah, so this is another guy that I thought initially may not get traded for the reason that Buxton didn't get traded. The Twins are pretty. Uh, they want to make sure that what they get back is a good deal. They're not going to trade anybody for just pennies. And as I predicted, they weren't going to trade away Josh Johnson. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, not. I'm a little surprised because given Donaldson's age and if he's playing well right now, why not sell high? But Twins probably felt they got a pretty good haul with Berrios, so they didn't feel the need to be traded. Now we'll go to Trevor Story. You had him going to the Yankees. I had him going to the Reds, but the Rockies have him. Don't trade him, and looks like Story's upset with them. But we'll talk about that later. I'm a little surprised he stayed, but he didn't get traded anywhere.
Yeah, that was my initial pick. I'm sure you remember most of the season I've been saying they shouldn't trade him and they won't trade him. And then obviously I went against my pick for the trade deadline episode and cost me a win. But um, I understand why they didn't trade him. And even if it does make him mad now, we'll see if they can get an extension done, especially if they offer him more than the majority of the teams, which is possible. Um, they would have a good shortstop for the future. The problem is, will they keep him? We don't know. And with his anger, which we'll talk about in our trade episode, uh, I feel like may stop them from being able to resign him.
Yeah, I think it was already a little chance that they would resign him, but given this new thing, I don't think he resigns. Now we go to CJ Cron, who was also on the Rockies. You and I think we agreed we had him both going to the Red Sox. Yeah, you and I both had him going to the Red Sox, but he stayed. So maybe the Rockies just didn't want to trade people. Um, that could be their choice. Maybe not the right choice, but it's their choice.
Yeah, and this is probably the most surprising one to me that didn't get moved to one I thought. I thought this one was a slam dunk, home run, grand slam choice, and we were both wrong. I feel like Boston needs a good hitting first baseman, and CJ Cron is a good hitting first baseman, and I don't feel like the Rockies would have sold him for that much. And so either the Boston didn't ask because they didn't want to give up anything, or the Rockies were being stingy. But I don't really believe that, considering the fact that they probably would have moved on from CJ Cron. I understand Trevor Story, but CJ Cron, I don't know about that. I don't think they would have held on for him. And the fact that they didn't make this move, like you said, it's their decision, but I guess we'll find out if it's the right one.
Yeah, now we move on to the final one where you and I agreed again. And that was Jose Ramirez to the Giants. Not surprised that the Indians kept him, but I'm surprised the Giants didn't go after him after you, but you did get Chris Bryant. But you and I both agreed having Ramirez for a year and a half versus Bryant for another half year. We thought that made sense, but the Giants disagree with us on that part.
Yeah, and maybe it wasn't even that. Maybe it was that the Giants were talking to the Indians, and the Indians were asking way too much, especially for that longer contract, because they could trade him at the deadline next year. So, um, well, I think they should have gone all in this year and made that trade whatever it costs because Jose Ramirez is just that good, MVP candidate almost every year, especially with his hitting abilities. Um, but we'll have to see whether or not the Giants regret making the trade or Chris Bryant resigns for a reasonable deal.
That would be quite a turn of events if Bryant stays. But we'll talk more about what the Cubs gotten back with all their trades and also the other trades that happened before we made this prediction video. So a little short video reviewing our picks and how we didn't fare that well. But we still got 2 for 2 on people staying, but no correct trades. But make sure to check out our next episode where we will be reviewing all the trades that happened. And make sure to check out our interviews. And also a quick thing about Taylor Hearn, a guy from our interviews, the second interview we did. He has taken over that starter spot for Kyle Gibson. So congrats to Taylor Hearn. And before his latest start, which happened on Sunday. Yes, happened on Sunday. No, it was actually Saturday. It was Saturday. A little confused because Jonah Heim both had hits, walk-offs both those days. But Taylor Hearn, before that, in his last 8 appearances, had a .69 ERA, which is pretty incredible. And we're looking forward to it. And just make sure to check out that interview and talk about his journey to the Rangers. Until next time, thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.